Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to what is perhaps the most exciting 3 week stretch of the entire sports calendar as March Madness is in full swing and 64 teams are vying for that one national title spot. And the Birkeland Sport Report is here for the third straight year doing a little bit of a broadcast of what I believe is going to happen in this NCAA tournament. Last year was a little rough with my champion pick Villanova being eliminated in the first round and struggling to a 22 percentile finish in the tournament challenge on ESPN. So we're hoping to not have a repeat of that this year. Before we continue, I just want to say thank you to everybody that has helped me along the way. I started this blog my sophomore year of high school, and it's almost been 5 years, and just where this has gone is certainly where I never expected it to be. So let's get to the games. In the South region, we have the number one seed Kansas Jayhawks. They should hopefully not become the first one seed to lose 0 in 124 to 16 seeds all time in NCAA tournament history. UConn against Colorado. UConn, Jalen Adams had that miraculous buzzer beater over Cincinnati in the AAC tournament. I think UConn, a program in the last kind of so far this decade, is when they've been in a tournament, magical things have happened. I think they can squeak by the Buffalo. Maryland gets the win over South Dakota State, and then we have Cal over Hawaii. A lot of people have picked Hawaii as a potential sleeper. They played Oklahoma earlier this year and kind of held with them. In the end, this Cal team is very talented. Two NBA potential lottery picks in Even Rabb and Jaylen Brown. Then we go down to the bottom part of the region, and we have Arizona taking on Wichita State. Wichita State was phenomenal in the second half against Vanderbilt, going on a 20-2 run to finish the game, with Fred VanVleet and Ron Baker leading the way. But in the end, I'd have to go with Arizona here. They've got three really consistent scorers: Ryan Anderson, Alonzo Trier, Gabe York, and I think their size is going to cause an issue for the Wichita State Shockers. Miami advances past Buffalo. Then we have Iowa. Remember, Iowa during parts of the year was a top 5 AP team, and if they turn it on, they would be a very dangerous 7 seed. They would meet the Villanova Wildcats of the Big East. Kansas advances past UConn, and then we get to one of the better potential second round matchups with a ton of NBA talent on the court between Cal and Maryland. In the end, though, I think Cal's talent is just a little bit better than Maryland's, and Cal has been playing a little bit better lately as well. Arizona, I think their size makes another difference against Miami. Miami had a very good year over in the ACC, but I think Arizona, Sean Miller is going to be able to get the Wildcats past the Hurricanes and into the Sweet 16 for another, and once again. Villanova, Iowa. If Iowa brings their A game, Villanova could have a little bit of trouble, but I think the Wildcats have the X factor in Chris Jenkins. He's been phenomenal this year as a secondary guy behind Ryan Arcidiacono and Josh Hart. Sweet 16, Kansas is the better team here. Cal has better talent, but Kansas is the team, and they advance to Elite 8. And then Villanova Wildcats take out Arizona to advance to Elite 8. And then I've got the Kansas Jayhawks advancing to the Final Four under Bill Self, getting past Villanova. Now we head over to the East region. We have UNC taking out Florida Gulf Coast. Now a very interesting 8-9 game. USC, a very spread the wealth team on offense, 5 guys in double figures. But then Providence has a great 1-2 punch of Chris Dunn and Ben Bento. I'm going to go with the team with the 2 best players on the court. A lot of pressure here for Indiana this year, a 5-12 game. A lot of people liking Chattanooga, but I think Yogi Ferrell is the X factor in this game. He's played phenomenal his senior year. He is not going to want to go out with a first-round loss. It would certainly put Tom Crean on the hot seat. Kentucky handles Stony Brook, but watch for Stony Brook's DeMille Warney, one of the top power forwards in the nation, scored 43 points in the conference championship game to get Stony Brook to the NCAA tournament for the first time in program history. Notre Dame taking on the winner of the Michigan-Tulsa game that is in progress right now. I think whoever wins Michigan-Tulsa can give Notre Dame a game, but in the end, Demetrius Jackson and Zach Augustine are too much for either team to handle. Press Virginia taking on Stephen F. Austin. I've got the Mountaineers, and here's why. Stephen F. Austin is one of my favorite mid-major teams of this NCAA tournament. It's their 3rd straight year, making it to the big dance, and they've knocked off VCU 2 years ago in a great 5-12 game. But West Virginia is just too athletic for the Lumberjacks. Stephen F. Austin took on Baylor. It was the start of the year, but Baylor has Big 12 athleticism similar to the Mountaineers, and Stephen F. Austin was blown off the court by 40. That's why I'm going with the Mountaineers. Wisconsin over Pitt, with Bronson Koenig and Nigel Hayes making a difference. Then we have Xavier advancing past Weber State. UNC Providence. UNC should have no trouble in this game, but it'll be really interesting to watch the guard play of Chris Dunn going against Marcus Page, but then also see how does Ben Bento play as well. There's been talk of him possibly going to the NBA, and this will be a great test to see how he can handle the physical maturity of the UNC big man, especially Bryce Johnson. Two blue blood programs then, and between Indiana and Kentucky, a lot of pressure for both coaches. Kentucky has the best 1-2 guard punch in the nation with Tyler Ewis and Jamal Murray. But also watch out for Skal Labissiere. He showed flash of his potential against LSU, was phenomenal in that game. If he can become a third scorer for the Wildcats, they become a Final Four caliber team. Notre Dame just does not have the bias to match up with West Virginia. West Virginia is sending wave after wave after wave at you, and Notre Dame just does not have that depth. Wisconsin-Xavier is a very intriguing game as well in the second round. Wisconsin with the experience of back-to-back Final Four runs, but also Xavier last year was in the Sweet 16. I'm going to go with Xavier here. Xavier, the more physical team, able to pound the ball inside, and I think that makes the difference. UNC, Kentucky, this would be a phenomenal Sweet 16 game between two of the greatest programs. In the end, I think UNC's size makes a big difference against Kentucky. UNC's big men have been pounding boards all year, while Kentucky's big men have been a mystery for most of the season outside of Skal Labissiere's recent emergence. Then we go to West Virginia Xavier. West Virginia is going to press Xavier. Xavier's guard play, when they have been pressed at times this season, has not stood up to the test, but also West Virginia is going to attack the boards hard on Xavier, and I think that they can take advantage of potential lapses in the Xavier defense, and they advance to the Elite Eight under Bob Huggins. West Virginia UNC Final Four, or Elite Eight, with a chance to go to Final Four, and I'm taking the UNC Tar Heels. When UNC is at their best, there is nobody in the nation that can beat them. So now we move down to the other side, to the bottom half of the bracket. We'll start in the West region, where Oregon, to the surprise of most people, rose to a number one seed over Michigan State. But give credit to Oregon. Last year they played Wisconsin in the 8-1 game in Omaha, and it was a tie game with 4 minutes to play. So this Oregon team didn't come out of nowhere. There were pieces there last year, and Dylan Brooks is one of the most underlooked players in the nation. St. Joe's against Cincinnati, a contrast of two styles. Cincinnati, a very good defensive team, but then you have St. Joe's, a very efficient team that's going to move the ball, and I'm going to take the efficient offense. Baylor, Yale making their first NCAA tournament appearance since 1962, but it's going to be a short one with Baylor advancing. And then Duke, UNC Wilmington. A lot of people also have UNC Wilmington as a trendy 13-4 upset pick. But in the end, if you want to run with the Duke Blue Devils, you got to have the players to do that, and Duke's going to have the two best players on the court by far. Then we get to the 6-11 game. Shaka Smart did a great job his first year at Texas. And you have him taking on Ben Jacobson, the Northern Iowa Panthers. Wes Washbaum with a miraculous bounce at the buzzer to take the Panthers into the NCAA tournament. I'm going to go with the Panthers here. They've shown before they can knock off the big guns. They beat UNC early this year, Iowa State, and they got 2 wins against Wichita State. Texas A&M is a very good team. Maybe a little surprising with that 3 seed, especially coming after a loss to Kentucky in the SEC title game. But this is a team that you cannot sleep on. Oregon State VCU. Havoc defense is still a mainstay at the program, even without Shaka Smart. But the guy to watch for in Oregon State, Gary Payton II, son of NBA legend Gary Payton, leads the team in points, assists, rebounds, and steals. And that would set up a matchup with Oklahoma and Buddy Hield. We go back to the top, and we have Oregon playing St. Joe's. I think St. Joe's can make this a very interesting game, but in the end, I think Oregon is going to be able to sneak by behind the play of Dylan Brooks. Baylor Duke, this is a very interesting game for me because Baylor is going to has the longer athletes. They can pound it inside and take advantage possibly of Duke's lack of depth. But in the end, I think Duke is going to be able to shoot their way to the zone. Luke Kennard does not get enough credit for how important he was to Duke's success this year, and Brandon Ingram is a phenomenal passer that'll be able to attack the zone along with Grayson Allen. I have Duke advancing. Next, we go back to Northern Iowa, Texas A&M. I've got the Aggies advancing to Sweet 16, and then we have a phenomenal matchup between Oregon State and Oklahoma. Buddy Hield going against Gary Payton II, and this might be the toughest matchup Buddy Hield's had all year from a defensive standpoint. But the supporting cast of Oklahoma, Isaiah Cousins, Jordan Woodard, Kadeem Lattin, and Ryan Spangler make the difference this time. We go Oregon Duke, and Duke doesn't have the constant big threat that can cause trouble for Oregon. I think Oregon's a little more disciplined, a better defensive team, and able to get past Duke. Then we have Buddy Hield advancing to the Elite Eight, and then Buddy Hield carries Oklahoma past Dylan Brooks and Oregon. But in the end, if Oklahoma doesn't hit their jump shots, and this is what worries me about them, can they find a consistent inside threat? Ryan Spangler or Kadeem Lyon to make a couple shots inside to weather the storm with their cold stretches. UVA now in the Midwest, number 1 seed, advances past them, and I'm going to go with Butler over Texas Tech. Texas Tech and Tubby Smith, great season in Big 12, but Butler, got to watch Keelan Martin, who has been phenomenal the second half of Big East play. Purdue Little Rock with some very nice guards, a very solid defensive team, but I'm going to have to go with the Twin Towers of A.J. Hammonds and Isaac Haas. Now for the biggest upset, I've got this in the first round. I have Iona going over Iowa State. Iowa State last year lost to a UAB team that's not as good as this Iona team. Iona's going to want to get out and run. A.J. English is a phenomenal player. If you haven't seen watch, it's a must-watch game. Seton Hall Gonzaga, big matchup in this one is going to be Kyle Wilcher and Isaiah Whitehead. Whitehead's going to be able to split pick and rolls and attack into the paint, but Seton Hall doesn't have somebody that's going to be able to match up very well with Kyle Wilcher, a stretch 4. But in the end, I think Whitehead, he's been playing phenomenal ball, and really in retrospect, you could have made a very, very strong case for him to be Big East Player of the Year. Utah advances past Fresno State, and Dayton gets past Syracuse, and perhaps a team that many people are asking, well, if you lose to St. John's, how are you in the NCAA tournament? Michigan State advances to finish out the second round in the Midwest region. Virginia takes care of Butler, and then we have Purdue-Iona. I think Purdue's size would make a difference. I could see Iona advancing to a Sweet 16 if they get past Iowa State. And yeah, I think Purdue's size can take advantage of Iona's little guards. Then we go to Seton Hall, Utah. Utah, the one guy on their team I really love, Jacob Poldo. I really hope the Timberwolves are able to draft him this next NBA draft. But Isaiah Whitehead is playing out of his mind, and I think he can carry the Pirates past the Utes. Finally, Denzel Valentine gets past Dayton. Dayton, remember, though, a couple years ago advanced to the Elite Eight, so it's a program that's had success in a tournament before. Finishing out the rest of the Midwest region, Virginia advances to meet their nemesis, Michigan State, for the 3rd straight year. And unfortunately for the Cavaliers, I've got Denzel Valentine leading Michigan State back to the Final Four for a 2nd consecutive season. UVA for 3 straight years knocked out by Michigan State, and it would be a heartbreaking way for Malcolm Brogdon and a couple of those Cavaliers to have their careers end. So we finish up with a Final Four of 2 number 1 seeds in Kansas and UNC. And then we also have Oklahoma and Michigan State rounding it off at the 2. Kansas, Oklahoma have played 2 fantastic games this year, including the battle at Lawrence. Buddy Hield going off for 46 points, triple overtime, easily the game of the year. But in the end, I have to go with Kansas here. They've beat Oklahoma twice. Yes, Buddy Hield was a little off that second game, but Kansas just has so many weapons and can score on the inside, outside, can attack, and that puts them over the Sooners. Then we have UNC going against Michigan State. I'm going to have to go with UNC here. Bryce Johnson has been phenomenal all year, should be an All-American. And I also think that the length of UNC's big men can cause disruption in the passing lanes for Denzel Valentine. And Michigan State has not faced a team that can rebound the basketball as well as UNC does. That sets up a Kansas-UNC national title game. And I'm going to have to take the Kansas Jayhawks here. Kansas has not won an NCAA title since 2008 when Mario Chalmers hit the 3 over to conquer Memphis. But I think this is the year for Kansas. They've been the best team all year. They were clear number 1 seed. And if everything comes together, they should be putting up another banner at Fog Allen. So that's my picks for the NCAA tournament. You can always check my blog out. I've got a post about a couple of the mid-majors if you're still on the edge of a few of them. But I also got some insight from a good friend of mine, Sam Smogard, on some very risky, I would say, picks for your bracket. But risky's his thing. He finished 99th percentile last year in the tournament and has the claim to fame of predicting the Mercer Duke upset of 2014. Once again, thank you, everybody. Hopefully these next few weeks are some of the most exciting times of the year. Didn't put in the final score, but we'll just go with a 77-70 because why not? But in the end, thank you once again for a 3rd straight year. This is the Birkeland Sport Report, and let's get ready for some madness.